fan the Flames here at Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, from Vikings.com and the Vikings Entertainment Network. Love this man, Gabe Henderson, ladies and gentlemen, part of the Feast Mix on a weekly basis. Alec Lewis will be here with The Athletic at 11 o'clock. And good morning. How are you, G?
I'm good. You talk about my Liberty Flames.
Mm-hmm.
This week we got New Mexico State. And then next week we got Aaron Jones's UTEP.
Oh, yeah.
Hoping to get into that. I know a lot of people were saying last year was a fluke going to the Fiesta Bowl. But, with teams, with the playoff system expanding to 12 teams,
yeah,
I like our chances this year.
All right. And in between you and Alec Lewis is the greatest running back in the history of New York Giants football. Tiki Barber joining the radio show.
How about that?
With an assist to our friend KFAN and KTLK's Robbie Rosenhaus, who put that thing together.
Makes sense.
What do you remember about Tiki? Anything?
He was a tough runner. So I think a lot of people know I grew up a Cowboys fan. So I hated the Giants. I hated. I can't think of last name, Jacobs.
Brandon
Jacobs.
Now, what was they were not Thunder and Lightning. They were something else. What were they?
I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
What were they? Somebody help me with this. Brandon Jacobs.
Was it Thunder and Lightning?
I don't think it was.
Yeah, I think it
swear it was something different, but maybe you're right.
But
maybe
just thinking about how hard and tough that they ran, it was like, how are they getting this many yards? And Tiki Barber, I think he wore like number 41. Like it was
21.
20, yeah, something along those lines. And I was like, how is this guy who is so shifty making all these guys miss? Like, how is he doing it? And you got to respect this game. And I love the fact that he's going to be joining this show. I think that's a really good get. His brother, Rondé Barber, really good really good safety for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both two really good careers. So my memories revolve around not liking those guys because I grew up a Cowboys fan, but I respected how he played.
And Tiki, we'll talk about Tiki when he comes on, but 10 years, same team.
Crazy.
That's it's you have to be really good for a team to want you for a decade, to be able to play effectively for a decade, and be with one team. I just think, there's something special. Look at Chad Greenway. There's something special that happens between you and your fan base when you start and end your career in the same place. And it doesn't mean that you can't still be beloved by by the fan base if you go somewhere else at the very end of your career. We still love Chris Carter, but you don't think of him as a Dolphin.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know. I just think there's something that's really special when you have the opportunity to go other places, maybe even take more money, but you choose to stay with one organization, just become iconic with that organization.
Yeah, I've had a few conversations with players that have been on one team for a long time, and then ultimately they went to another team towards the end of their career because they didn't want to take a pay cut. And the rhetoric that I got back and the feedback that I got back from those players is like, man, I wish I would have just stayed with that team.
Yes.
Like money does talk, but sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And Harrison Smith, for example, C.J. Ham, for an example, like when you think about both of those guys' career, you're always going to think about them as Minnesota Vikings. And just thinking about the long-term effect they've had on this fan base, this is something that they will never forget. So I'm excited to see both of those guys stay here in purple for, the foreseeable future.
All right, so I have that big cartoon character smile on my face because something just clicked with me that we have a new individual here who hasn't heard a couple of stories that I've shared 15 times on KFAN. And one of them involves Dexter Lawrence. Okay. All right. Gabe's mom not only babysat Chris Paul, the Chris Paul. But she taught Dexter Lawrence how to drive.
Unreal.
It was
most of that
mentor, my mentor taught Dexter how to drive.
But in North Carolina, right?
North Carolina,
and they put Dexter Lawrence in this tiny little car, man, and he was huge when he was learning to drive. Like knees were up in the dashboard.
Honda Civic, I lied to you not. Dexter Lawrence in the passenger seat.
I love
when
that
he got
story.
Out, there was literally a dent in the glove compartment from Dexter Lawrence sitting in the front seat.
And the shocks are ruined, and it's going down the road listing heavily to one side.
Yeah. But see, Gabe has such unbelievable stories that he doesn't think about. So, I'm getting to know Gabe a couple of years ago. We're out at TCO Radio Studios, and he just in passing is like, oh, yeah, my mom babysat Chris Paul. I'm like, well, how did I never know that? Oh, yeah, my mentor in this area taught Dexter Lawrence to drive. Oh, yeah, I went to Ronald Curry's basketball. I'm like, are you kidding me with these unbelievable stories?
I got one more for you. So you remember Josh Howard?
Oh,
He
yeah.
played basketball at Wake Forest.
Oh, yeah. And played for Dallas. He was good.
Played for Dallas Mavericks. My mom grew up across the street from his mom.
Oh, wow.
So we've known that family for a while too, and just he's really involved in the community now. I know a lot of people haven't heard from him since those Dallas Maverick days, but North Carolina is such a small community that when you have someone who makes it out, like everyone kind of leans on that person as like hope. So Dexter Lawrence was that guy. Naheem Hines in Cleveland. It's crazy. Those two guys, they were close growing up, and Dexter Lawrence, Keith Marshall, they played together for the same high school team.
Wow!
And they both played in the NFL. So it's a small, close knit community.
That's
and
elite.
It'll be fun watching Dexter Lawrence on TV on Sunday.
I hope it's fun watching Dexter Lawrence on TV on Sunday. Yes, this is the A topic of the game. Is Dexter Lawrence for me.
Yeah.
And if I'm not having fun watching Dexter Lawrence, it means he's sacking my quarterback.
But see, Charch is Lawrence is formidable, ain't no doubt.
Yeah.
Love him, always have. But Charch is so wary and respectful of Dexter Lawrence. On a Friday into a Sunday, that when we started the show, he's like, well, the A topic is the four guys who are going to be rushing Darnold. And then he mentioned Burns, Thibodeau, and Lawrence. I'm like, where's the fourth? Or do you count Dexter as two because he's that big and that good? He goes, I do.
He takes up two gaps. I mean, think about how big he is and the interior push that he gets on a consistent basis. I think that's something that this Minnesota Vikings offensive line has to take into account. Look, our bookends, Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill.
Yeah.
If Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns are lined up one-on-one, we expect you guys to manhandle those guys one-on-one and ultimately let our interior guys worry about Dexter Lawrence and that second guy and/or a blitzer coming from that interior. So it'll be an interesting matchup. I love the fact that Garrett Bradbury kind of gets some get back on Dexter Lawrence. He's already seen him twice.
Yep.
That play from 2 years ago still stands out in people's minds. And you look at how Garrett Bradbury bounced back last year, having, in my opinion, a really good year, probably his best year of his career last year. To get that opportunity again against Dexter Lawrence, full health, to start the season off. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm hopeful that isn't how the game gets decided.
Well, you can't single Dexter.
No.
I mean,
you
Dexter
can't.
Lawrence in that playoff game had one quarterback hit. One. And it was the final play of the season.
Yep.
So they did a pretty good job against him, but he's the A topic. They should, which means doubles, right?
For sure. And when you look back at that 22 film, Dexter Lawrence, his main priority was just stopping the run. They weren't getting much pass rush. You saw a lot of Landon Collins blitzing and a lot of stunts and blitzes because Dexter Lawrence is going to take up two offensive linemen.
Right.
And then that last drive of the game is like, okay, we'll let you loose. Go do your thing. And it really shows the amount of trust they have in Dexter Lawrence, both in the pass rush and the run defense. So very exciting to see.
Okay, so Dave Hanlon, Superstats Dave, Alan Horton's right-hand man at home games, he tweeted all of us. Thunder and Lightning was Ron Dane. Tiki Barber, so you were right.
Yep.
But I can't say I remember this name. Brandon Jacobs, Derek Ward, and Ahmad Bradshaw. I remember all them.
Oh, yeah.
But they were Earth, Wind, and Fire. Do you remember
I did not,
it that
no,
way?
I did not remember that, but okay.
Yeah, they're Earth, Wind, and Fire. So
Brandon Jacobs was a freaking beast.
Oh,
he was like really mini Derrick Henry before Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
He had that kind of build and that kind of power. And when he got that big running lane and just had that full mass going forward, oh, what a beast.
I mean, he was because that's when Eddie George was starting to get closer to the end of his career. And then Brandon Jacobs kind of picked up the big running back steam where it's like, oh, well, big running backs are still alive. And to see how that's kind of transpired into today's running backs with Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, and so on and so forth, I really love that lineage when it comes to keeping those big running backs alive.
Well, see, with Brandon Jacobs, I believe he was at Southern Illinois, but he might have started at Alabama. And I think he might have been at Alabama with Cadillac Williams.
Okay.
They had three of them. I can't remember the other one.
No, you're right. There was some other Cadillac. It was Cadillac Williams and somebody else.
That was at Auburn, right?
Auburn, thank you. Auburn, thank you.
Cadillac Williams, because both of those running backs played for I can't think of the name. The other one played for the Miami Dolphins with Ricky Williams. I can't. Is it Andre Brown?
Ronnie Brown.
Yep.
So
we got there.
Yeah,
we got there.
Like back in the day, Southern Methodist University.
Yep.
Their backfield was called the Pony Express, and it was Craig James blocking for Eric Dickerson. Craig James ended up having a wonderful career. How about, running back depth in college?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it always starts and stops for me with the Miami Hurricanes when they had, Clinton Portis.
Yep.
I think they had like Clinton Portis, Edgerrin James,
Willis McGahee.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Frank Gore eventually after that.
Yep. I think Frank Gore was coming off the bench that year.
Wow. Yeah,
And
they were so deep.
That same year, Sean Taylor was coming off the bench, backing up Ed Reed.
Yeah.
And people
It's
talk about
insane.
Yeah, I mean,
And Devin Hester was a corner.
Yep. And Roscoe Parrish was playing.
Oh, wow. What a punt returner he was in college.
Who was it was Barry Sanders and who?
At Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Isn't it Ed McCaffrey? Wasn't Christian McCaffrey's dad? No?
At running back.
Don't know.
It was Barry Sanders, and there was another running back that was also, I swear, that was also very, very good. But then there was Barry Sanders,
Yep.
Obliterates everybody. Yes.
Yep.
I swear that's the case.
And I love the fact of, how we're talking about these running backs from back in the day, and you look at the modern day running back, and they always say they modeled their game after those guys. And you see, looking at last night's game, right? What's his name? Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah.
Just that entire Chiefs offense. Like, they still have the balance and the juice and the jukes that those old school running backs have, but the speed.
Thurman Thomas.
Thurman Thomas. That was it.
Barry Sanders played with Thurman Thomas. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
That's
You never
insane.
knew that.
You're Thurman Thomas, and you're the second best running back on your team.
That's a heck of a roster.
Gabe, who nobody ever says I model my game after? It's Barry Sanders. Because you can't.
Right.
You can't model your game after Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
He's one of one.
One of one.
He's one of one. I think it's going to be hard for us to get another running back in the league similar to Barry Sanders. Like, Christian McCaffrey has some S to it, the balance and the jukes, but he's still not in that same conversation as Barry Sanders. But yeah, to the modern day running back.
Coaches this day and age would never let anybody play like Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Running backwards and.
Well, yeah, it's like, bro, come on. This is great and everything. And you know what? Yeah, you did get 35 out of it, but here was the hole right here. And then CJ paved the way with, you have to take, which is the right way to go about it. But there are just certain things in this day and age of the NFL that I'm telling you, coaches just would not allow.
Yeah, the game now is north, east, and west. You don't go south. And Barry Sanders went south before he went north.
He did a lot.
And it worked. It worked for that Detroit Lions team and that Silver Dome. I actually just finished watching that Barry Sanders documentary the other day, which is really good. Talked about why he retired, which we still don't know why.
Well, so he didn't say in the documentary, really?
Barry's tricky.
Look, he is, but it has to be the fact that he was the best running back maybe ever, and they put nothing around him for his whole career.
Yeah.
Terrible offensive lines, no quarterbacking. I just, at some point, the assumption is that he just got frustrated with all the losing and the lack of support around him.
Put Barry Sanders on that same Emmitt Smith Cowboys team.
Yeah, oh, God.
The Cowboys win way more Super Bowls than
I don't know about that. Emmitt Smith is one of the great pass-protecting blitz pickup running backs ever. He put the hit on the linebacker of the come on. I understand what you're saying, but I think you're shortchanging Emmitt a little bit here.
Emmitt is a Hall of Famer for sure, but the dynamic running ability that Barry Sanders had, I think that basically would have electrified that offense more with everything else that they had on that offense.
But now you got to get Michael Irvin to block down the field.
No, good luck.
It's a difference between asking Brett Perryman to block down the field and making sure Michael Irvin, the Cane, blocks down the field. But anyway.
But if Barry would have had
put it behind the
running lanes provided by that Dallas offensive line, he'd have gotten to the second level. And now it's just game over. And he's just juking linebackers. And, I wish, if only.
Wishful thinking. And I'm excited to see, that the running back position kind of evolve again. It's kind of taken the back seat the past couple of years because of, injuries and so on and so forth. But I do think, the new wave of running backs, watching the game last night, I believe the running back position is slowly starting to make a comeback.
All right, we got 9 minutes with G before Tiki calls. Let's fire into the Vikings and the Giants. Weather in the Twin Cities is phenomenal on Sunday.
Yep.
Great taking child to park weather after church and get a nice meal and everything. Sunday looks like it's going to be beautiful. What are you thinking about the game for main man G?
Well, let's start here. Most of the conversation throughout this preseason has been about Sam Darnold. We get our first chance to see him right now. Tell me what you feel are reasonable expectations for Sam coming into his first ever Vikings game.
I think reasonable expectations are letting Sam get the ball to his playmakers and not taking too many shots down the field early. I think for Sam to get used to this offense, you got to trust the people around you. Start with some, not screens, but quick plays to Aaron Jones, quick hitches to Justin Jefferson. And then ultimately, once he starts to get in the rhythm, that's when you start letting the ball go down the field. Maybe Kevin O'Connell does the opposite and say, hey, let's take some shots early and get the nerves out. But from talking to Kurt Warner last week and him being in a similar situation where he was the backup quarterback for the Rams in 1998 and then thrust into the starting role in 1999, unexpectedly leading the greatest show on turf. I think could be something similar for Sam Darnold. Hey, don't be a hero out there. You got the weapons around you. Let those guys go and make plays, and then the offense will open up once you start to get more comfortable. So I'm excited to see what that can look like.
I want to talk about one of those guys to make plays, very specifically about Jordan Addison.
Yep.
First, his season last year, I think, is being underappreciated by this fan base. 900 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Yep.
In the Super Bowl era, Gabe, you want to know how many receivers had 900 yards and 10 touchdowns as a rookie?
How many?
7.
Wow.
7 in 56 years. And think about all the rookies, wide receivers. I mean, there's thousands of them. 7 of them have managed what Jordan Addison did last year. Now, you're Jordan.
Yep.
You've had 2 highly publicized bad judgment decisions that have put a cloud over, over who you are, what the fan base thinks you are. I want to believe that Jordan Addison, with T.J. Hawkinson out, that he really wants to put together a new narrative about him being a great football player.
For sure.
And really being a dependable receiver who is somebody that, we can start to reverse the narrative on. And I just got to believe he's a human being, that he wants to get that stuff behind him and really just show that what we saw as a rookie on the field is who he is, and that he can get even better in year 2. And it starts Sunday.
For sure. I think, the instances that Jordan Addison has ran into, if you're JA, you're looking at it and saying, like, look, this is just a small part of my story. My future is so far. I have so much more to accomplish in my future that I'm going to prove everything that I've done in the past 2 years of my career. I'm going to prove everyone wrong and move forward. When you look at Jordan Addison, what he did on film last year speaks for itself. But what he did this training camp, like some of the plays he was making out there, I'm like, dude, he's a wide receiver 1 on many teams this year. And to see him paired with Justin Jefferson, full health, full strength, I'm excited to see what year 2 can be like for him. Because if you're Jordan Addison, you're like, hey, I did that, 900 yards and X amount of snaps. Like, I'm looking for 1,000, and Justin Jefferson is looking for 2,000 receiving yards. Why can't we do that? So it should be very fun to see.
I'm going to bring this up with Tiki, but this is the Devin Singletary has been in a carry split situation all of his life. I mean, Zach Moss and so on and so on and so on. But nevertheless, bell cow back, I guess is the best way to put it. He's not in a carry split situation here with Eric Ward and this other younger kid behind him. So with Devin, a couple of years ago, remember at Buffalo, that famous Buffalo game, I mean, Devin killed us.
Yeah.
If you look at his carries / his yards, the yards per attempt wasn't massive, but, I mean, those touchdowns took place right in front of us. I mean, he looked like the fastest human on earth when he caught the ball and got the corner. He looked cheetah fast, Tyreek Hill fast. Charch, we'll begin with you. Devin Singletary in a singular role as a lead back. What do you think?
Well, not a special back, but an effective grinder. They call him motor. You get, he'll take advantage of what your offensive line gives you. And the Giants improved their offensive line quite a bit this offseason. And he won't make mistakes. He's not going to give the ball away. He's not going to fumble. He's not going to hurt you. he also has not ever been a contributor through the air. And that really should help you defensively, schematically. You know that he's not somebody that's going to be peeling out into routes very often. He will be only really dump off
like
receptions in trouble. Well, Saquon
was a problem.
Saquon was a problem. That's right. Way better receiver, and you had to account for that.
Yep.
You really don't with him. You might see a little Tyrone Tracy on third down.
That's what I was thinking of.
And Tyrone Tracy, they might put him into some positions to catch passes. But what I like for the Viking side is just what Singletary's going to do. Yep. You know what his skill set is, and I think that helps you prepare a little bit for him because he's not as dynamic as some of the other runners we'll see.
For sure, yeah. That's one less problem that you have to lose sleep over, and now you could kind of focus your attention on, okay, stopping Daniel Jones is the way to make the most and get over this offense. And yeah, they have Malik Neighbors, and I believe he's going to be a phenomenal receiver down the league. But when it comes to getting the ball to Malik Neighbors, they got to run the ball first. And if this Minnesota Vikings team can handle that, I believe everything else will open up for our defense, which ultimately gives our offense the ball and winning that time of possession. If you're this New York Giants team, that I believe that the last week that they beat us, the time of possession in 2022, that wild card game, was astronomical. They
never punted.
Yeah.
I know.
Wow.
It's
That's
crazy.
Right.
They never punted.
Well, Daniel Jones ran 17 times in that game.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's 17, but he ran 28 like in the 2 against us that year.
Yep. He ran for over 100 yards in both of those games combined. And that wild card game, the time of possession was just out of this world. So if we can stop the run, stop Devin Singletary, and don't let Daniel Jones get comfortable, that's a recipe for success for our defense.
But see, Bullard's really good against the run. Okay,
yes.
That's his bit. Strong, hold the point, good against the run, help others feed, as they say in the business. Harrison Phillips is high end against the run. Now, and this is with no disrespect to a guy I adore, Jordan Hicks, but it's a run-stopping upgrade with Blake Cashman. I mean, now you got Cashman and Ivan Pace Jr., and then these good safeties behind him.
Yep.
So Kwesi's done a good job squaring up at least the interior of the run defense.
I'm excited about it. And then Blake Cashman, just what he provides as far as a linebacker that can blitz, a linebacker that can stop the run, someone that could, when he has the opportunity to run free alongside Ivan Pace, that makes this entire defense better. So I'm excited that we got Jonathan Bullard back, Harrison Phillips. It's a contract year for him. So, every guy that's in a contract year, they're going to make better plays that year because they know they got to figure out what the next contract is going to be. So I'm excited to see both of those guys stop the run and our linebackers behind those two play fast. And we haven't even talked about our outside linebackers.
Right.
If they're playing fast, the back end is playing fast.
And the question is, from where will they be playing fast? Because it could be certain situations. You got Grenard here. You got Van Ginkel there. Oh, in the middle, you got Patrick Jones and Dallas Turner mugging the A-gap, threatening to come through between the guard and the center.
100%. There's a lot of versatility that our defense has, and Brian Flores, if you're him, you're licking your chops, especially week one, having everyone as healthy as they're ever going to be for the entire rest of the season. So it'll be fun.
You're fantastic. Thank you very much for the time. Generally, this will be 2 segments, but you got Tiki. And I know you got Tiki.
I get it.
One way or another. Yeah, of course you get it. So I'm glad you stopped by. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gabe.
Hey, Gabe Henderson, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause to my main man right here. Really good at what he does. When we return, we're going to get a phone call from the greatest running back in the history of New York Giants football, and they've had 99 years of football. Tiki Barber joins 9 to noon next.
To noon.
You like that?
Good stuff.
Welcome back to the Friday Football Feast at Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale. Paul Charch and Paul Allen. And now, as we've mentioned several times during the course of the radio show today, the greatest running back in the history of New York Giants football is Tiki Barber with 10,449 rushing yards. My man had 68 touchdowns during his career in the regular season. One of them was a punt return, and had a wonderful 10-year run with the Big Blue. Assists to Robbie Rosenhaus for this, and here he is. Hello, Tiki. Welcome to the Friday Football Feast. Good to chat with you. How are you?
Appreciate you having me, Paul. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Right on, man. Got a co-host, Paul Charchian, and it's 100th season for New York Giants football this year, and Tiki took part in 10% of it. What? I'm just going to open it like this. Well, simply because it's football immortality here, man, 100 seasons, and you're part of it. Like, with the market and the media market and everything, and just being a Giant. Like, what was it like spending your entire career with the New York Giants? That's cool.
Yeah, it was a blessing. You realize after you get a little bit into the league, 4 or 5 years in, and then you start to find some success, how blessed it is that you're amongst some of the greats. And I was lucky because a lot of the legends that were hanging around, Rosie Brown would come around, and Frank Gifford. So I got a chance to chat with a lot of these guys. Ron Johnson, who was another running back in the day, and just get to absorb a little bit of the history, and then to go on and be a part of it after having a pretty good career for a decade. You just realize how important this game is to the city that we lived in. And I guess that's the case for all major sports in all big cities. It becomes a part of the fabric of people's lives, and to be, one of those that brought some smiles on Sunday afternoons, and it's lasting memories for a lot of people. It's special, and it's special to think about.
Tiki, Paul Charchian, great to meet you. You played 10 years for the same team. Undoubtedly, you had opportunities to play elsewhere, but it feels like, because you did the 10 years with one team, which is like, 1% of NFL players, you just become intrinsically linked with that team. And I got to believe at the end of the day that you could have squeaked out a little more money going to, I don't know, Carolina or something, but you get to forever be a New York Giant. Tell me a little bit about 10 years with the same team.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was a free agent right after we went to the Super Bowl in 2000, and obviously that game was brutal for us. The Ravens, with one of the greatest defenses in the history of the league, absolutely mauled us. But my free agent year happened right then, and that was right when I was coming into my own. The Giants had just drafted the Heisman Trophy winner in Ron Dane, so in a sense, there was a replacement, thought in my mind. But after having the success that we had that year, I didn't want to go anywhere else. And I knew that there were other options out there, but being in New York and thriving in New York it just felt special. I actually lived in the city, and unlike most players, I lived in New York City on the Upper East Side, so I got to experience this, I don't know, the majesty of being a star in New York City. It was really, really cool. It never really crossed my mind to want to play anywhere else. And I think, as I look back on it, that was special. It's interesting because my brother, my identical twin brother, did the same thing. 16 years he played down in Tampa Bay, and I don't think he ever thought about leaving. And now, both of us are 6 months away from 50 years old. He's still the mayor down there. Right? He's done everything, right? He won a championship. He's been there for 16 years. He runs golf tournaments. He's just recently gotten to the Hall of Fame. When you can connect with a new home and it becomes your home. New York, New Jersey, or I live in New Jersey now, has become my home. It's like Tampa has become Rondé's home, not Roanoke, Virginia, where we grew up. And our families are in these areas, and we're part of the fabric of it. And it really is special. You're right. I had chances to leave, but I never really wanted to. I think I saw how special it was to be in New York.
Well, Tiki, you mentioned Rondé, and you mentioned how things change, and you're in your 10th year, you're a running back, and you've taken a fair amount of hits. It's fascinating, man, because it doesn't happen for people like this. Your final 2 games. I mean, I think the final regular season game was against Washington. You might have gone for 224 franchise record. Then in the playoffs, okay, you lose. and you're not we lost, but I got mine guy. You're not like that. You want the team to win, but still, in your final 2 games, man, you went for 371 rushing yards and walked away from the game. I mean, you had to second guess it just a little bit, right?
No, I never really did. I mean, my penultimate year in 2005, which was my best year of my career, I had almost 2,400 all-purpose yards. I had 404 or 405 touches or something like that. The following year, it was right up there as well, like 380 touches or something. I was just getting beat up. Nowadays, just for comparison's sake, nowadays running backs, except for Derrick Henry, maybe they get 300 touches total. And so it was a grind on my body, and I could feel myself slowing down. Like 70, 80-yard runs from 3 or 4 years ago were becoming 20-yard runs and getting caught, and like my body just wasn't as durable as it had once been. And then on top of that, the preparation that it took to get ready for a season, I just wasn't committed to. And I wasn't going to be that guy who just hung around, as Paul was saying earlier, just hung around to collect a paycheck and see what happened. If I wasn't fully committed to it, I was going to go do something else. And, fortunately for me, and this probably ties into being a New Yorker and living in the city, there were so many opportunities for me to do other things, whether it was on the entrepreneurial side or getting into media. I mean, I left the NFL and went and worked for the Today Show. And so it was, I felt that the opportunities outside of the game were more important to me at that moment of my life where I was about to be 32 years old.
Well, that's self-awareness at the end of something fun many lack. And this is Tiki Barber at Tiki Barber via Twitter if you're interested. Greatest running back in the history of Giants football, Vikings and Giants this weekend. We'll get into that momentarily over the final 5 or 6 minutes with Tiki.
Tiki, a topic that honestly we don't like to talk about here, but you'll enjoy more. Let's talk about what we call 41 Donut here in this town. Vikings,
out there stealing plays.
It's not a good memory for you guys, but it was fantastic.
It really isn't. Very good for you guys. The Vikings rolled into that game as prohibitive favorites. It looked like one of the great offenses of all time. And you guys completely shut down the Vikings offensively and defensively. At what point of that game did you realize the Vikings had no shot, that you guys were going to run away with this game?
I got to tell you, honestly, we knew before the game.
Wow.
And it was all because of philosophy. So philosophically, how the Minnesota Vikings, as you guys remember that year, you'd get up on people, you'd get up on teams, and then they had the pass. Randy Moss would, go score a touchdown, and Dante Culpepper, all this big stuff would happen for the Vikings offensively, and then defensively they would just tee off and take advantage of offenses that were desperate to catch up. And so because we had a defensive first team, we knew our philosophy was just hit Randy Moss, hit him as hard as you can, as often as you can, and get him frustrated. And then ultimately, that's going to derail the offense, and all we got to do is score a couple of touchdowns, and then we'll be in the driver's seat. And Sean Payton, as you guys remember, may or may not remember, was our offensive coordinator. And the first meeting on Monday, we came in before the championship game, and he said to us, "We are going to throw for 300 yards in the first half." And we were looking at each other like, what the hell are you talking about? He said, "Go watch them on tape. When they have to play defense, they get exposed." And so we knew that all we had to do was create some big plays, and we could expose the Viking secondary, and that's exactly what happened. We score right away with a wheel route to Greg Camella down the sidelines, the busted coverage by the second level of the Vikings, and then the kickoff. You guys fumbled the kickoff, and it put us right back in scoring position. And so those we got ahead. It fit our game plan exactly, and then we were able to tee off on Randy Moss and frustrated the Vikings offense. And honestly, the game was over before halftime. We just knew that we had the edge, and the home crowd and the old Giant Stadium, the intimate Giant Stadium, the new MetLife Stadium is too fast. Like the fans are too far away from the field, so you don't feel it the same way. but that old Giant Stadium was rocking like I've never seen it before.
Well, I mean, it's immortality with the stories, man. I mean, like they open 2 doors and then the wind changes the game. You got Jimmy Hoffa in one of the end zones about 10 feet below. I mean, it's immortality, Tiki. You don't have to tell us. Hey, a couple more here for Tiki Barber, okay? To Sunday's game. And low key, Tiki, I'm kind of a Devin Singletary fan, and just simply because he's fast, and I've just always like appreciated what he's done with what he has, and now he's not going to he's not going to be cutting carries with James Cook, Zach Moss, whomever. So Devin, he's the lead back here. What do you think?
He is. And the thing I like most about Devin, and we called a couple of his games, our CBS crew, when he was in Houston last year, and he kind of supplanted Dameon Pierce, who was the starter there when Dameon got hurt and Dameon got healthy, but Devin Singletary was just more effective. Even though he's not a big runner, he always finishes forward. He's that kind of player that's going to get positive yardage. Right? He's never losing ground to try to hit the big play. He's very efficient in how he moves, and maybe he'll get challenged a little bit by Tyrone Tracy, who was a former wide receiver. We drafted him in the 5th round this year. He's got great hands, and he's dynamic. And so, but you're right, Devin's going to be the ball carrier, and it takes me back to kind of when in my era, a smaller back who's strong enough and willing enough to run between the tackles, but can do so many diverse things. And we're going to need him to do that because the offensive line has been historically, and I mean by historically, the last decade, the issue for the Giants. Now, it's gotten a little bit better with, some free agent signings. Jermaine Illuminor, who's going to start at right tackle, and John Runyon came from Green Bay, is going to be at left guard. So it feels more veteran. But it has to be more balanced offensively for the Giants. And with Malik Neighbors hopefully being that deep threat that we've long desired since the Odell Beckham Jr. days, hopefully we can find some balance offensively.
Last one for Tiki. Wrap it up, Charch.
Tiki, the Giants made a controversial decision to draft Neighbors, which really meant that they doubled down on Daniel Jones. And Neighbors looks like he's going to be great. Right. But he's still not a quarterback, and it's still not clear if Daniel Jones is requisite of an NFL quarterback. So how do you feel about that decision by the front office?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it was just going to be prohibitively expensive because of all the other needs that the Giants had in the draft to give away, whether it was a 3rd or 4th rounder, to move up and go get one of those quarterbacks. And we all know now because we're seeing how many of these guys are starting. And I think JJ would have started for you guys if he hadn't gotten hurt. You have to find your quarterback. You have to find that guy who you can build around. And, when I think about Daniel, the circumstances are similar to Sam. Now, Sam's early history was terrible, with Todd Bowles getting fired and then Adam Gase coming in, and even Adam Gase at the end of his tenure basically saying, I failed Sam, and he was right. When you have to switch coordinators so many times and systems change over and over again, it's almost impossible for quarterbacks to be successful. And Daniel Jones hasn't had it to the extent that Sam has, but it has been that way. The Giants went through this is his 3rd coach and his 4th coordinator, Daniel Jones, and he's had health issues. And so the challenge and the frustrating part for Giants fans is that they really like Daniel. Right? They saw early in his career that he could be a guy who pushes the ball downfield. I mean, he didn't get that nickname Danny Dimes in college. That came from his first year in the NFL with the Giants. But it's been so hard for him to establish himself. And 6 years in, Giants fans still don't know. And think about that. 6 years in with the same quarterback, and you still don't know? Like, who gets that amount of time? No one. And so it's a hold your breath. Let's hope that we get the Danny Dimes Daniel Jones and not the guy who can't be consistently on the field. Because I think if you do get the Daniel Jones from 2022 where he led the league in turnover ratio, meaning lowest turnover ratio with Jalen Hurts, then the Giants offensively can be good and defensively they can be impactful. But there's so many like little question marks, not huge ones, but just like little question marks surrounding him that make it hard to just really believe that this success is right around the corner, if that makes sense. So it's almost like you got to just wait and see. And nobody likes being waiting and seeing as a fan.
Tiki, that was spectacular. Bless you, my man. Likewise for your twin. And have a great weekend, and hopefully we catch up soon, okay?
Most certainly. Be well, guys. Take care.
See you, bud.
Thanks, Tiki. Great
Tiki
job.
Barber. That was awesome.
Yeah, you can tell he hosts his own show on WFAN. You know, he can carry a conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, very
really
strong.
sharp guy.
Thank you, Robbie. All right, 9 to noon continues with a Covenant Quickie around the corner. Then YA, young Alec Lewis with the Athletic. He joins us at Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale for the first feast, year 15 for the Friday football feast. Fantasy football feast, 9 to noon at Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale. Paul Charchian and yours truly, Paul Allen. Can you start any or all of these three highly drafted and talented rookie receivers? Let's say Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze.
Neighbors to me is the most fascinating because there's so many questions about the Vikings cornerbacks, right? A lot of tumult here, a lot of change. You know, we don't know where Shaq Griffin is in his career cycle. Stephon Gilmore, we hope he's still got good play left in him. And we think Neighbors is going to be a magnet for targets like week one. You know, they have other quasi-interesting receivers, Wendell Robinson and stuff, but Neighbors is the future, and I wouldn't be surprised they pepper him a lot. So I like him here. Rome Odunze is fascinating. Goes up against Tennessee.
Yep.
Tennessee got L'Jarius Sneed, a very good cornerback for the Chiefs in free agency.
Wow.
He's really their only good cornerback, and he's going to be on DJ Moore. Rome Odunze is going to run free against inferior coverage for Tennessee. I'm kind of optimistic about him.
What do you think of Tony Pollard? Tony Pollard in that game against the Bears.
I'm not feeling very optimistic. When they needed Pollard in Dallas last year in a variety of different roles, but primarily as their lead back, the dude was a big L.
First year off a bad injury. That was last year.
Yeah, it wasn't like ACL.
I think he might have broken his leg.
We all expected more and better things. Never came together. Tajay Spears, to me, is the better, more dynamic back. And Pollard might be the starter just from veterans equity, but Spears is the more interesting of the two for sure.
Do you like White with Tampa Bay, and what do you think of Bucky Irving, the backup?
Well, to the surprise of most of us,
Rashad White catches too, right?
He does catch. He's an accomplished pass catcher, and last year he was their do everything back and really a workhorse. They never had to go much into their depth chart. They drafted Bucky Irving, former Gopher, who is a straight-ahead, shifty runner, much more of a power runner than White is. Mm-hmm. And it looks like Bucky Irving's going to have a bigger role than most of us thought he was going to have. The coaching staff came out this week and said, we're going to use both guys, and we might use a little hot hand. And, we're like, wow, okay. This could be a situation that could be developing in Bucky Irving's favor.
Vikings-Giants analysis in the final hour with Alec Lewis with the Athletic when we return to Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale on KFAN.